Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. The link of the TikToks in the comments. Remember to read the description and be polite in the comments. Enjoy watching.
You know, I find it really ironic how Aulistics like to accentuate this stereotype that autistic people are the ones with really inflexible, rigid black and white thinking. But then they go and say stuff like this.
Self-diagnosis is valid.
Make it make sense.
So you're autistic? Yes, I am autistic.
Oh, I
And
like
you
your
take
sweater.
everything literally. I will be taking everything you say at face value. I'm going to tell you that I am bad for you. Yeah, except for that one, for some reason.
I don't see enough people talking about autism and period.
Yes, literally no one talks about it.
Periods are a sensory nightmare. From the pain from the cramps to the sensory experience of the blood and the menstrual products. Taking care of hygiene, which is already hard for autistic people, becomes even harder during a period.
Yes,
Menstrual
exactly.
products are harder for autistic people to use and manage. Remembering to change products can be challenging, especially with autistic people's poor interoception. Periods can cause change or disrupt routines, which can be very distressing. The time before and during a period is a time of hormonal changes. These changes can elevate autistic traits,
Yes,
such
makes
as
sense.
causing emotional dysregulation, increased sensory issues, and meltdowns. These changes can also increase stress and decrease energy. If you're autistic and you struggle with your period, know that your experiences are valid and you are not alone.
No, thank you.
Executive dysfunction is such a bizarre phenomenon to explain to people who don't have it.
I want to do the task. I'm tired of not doing the task. In my brain hole is like, do the task, just do the task. You're anxious because you haven't done the task.
But alas,
Relatable.
I cannot.
This is the story of how I found out that I was autistic. So when I was 18, I got my first boyfriend, and he used to make a lot of autism jokes about me, and I didn't even question it. After an entire year, I finally asked him if he really thought I was autistic. He was like, it's pretty obvious. Absolutely ruthless.
Aw.
Anyways, I started to hyperfixate on it and do a bunch of research. I asked my mom and she was like, I always knew something was wrong with you, but I wouldn't say it's as extreme as autism. So I started figuring it out on my own. I went to my primary care doctor first and he immediately shut me down. He told me I was being disrespectful because his 2-year-old son was autistic and I was
Okay.
nothing like him. I'm nothing like your
Okay.
son, no way. So at this point I was convinced I was autistic, and at the peak of COVID I found someone to do my evaluation. It was an old white man over Zoom. I got misdiagnosed so badly. Instead of autism,
Such a common experience for trans people and women. I had gone to the hospital to be diagnosed with ADHD. When I told the doctor I was trans, she thought I was bipolar. That's horrible. You know, that's not nice.
I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, bipolar 1, and schizotypal personality traits. So I asked him, why not autism? He said I made really great eye contact with the camera, and
Okay.
I quote, you're just a really smart girl that doesn't know how to function like a normal human being. I will literally never forget that. After this, I was like, okay, I guess I'm not autistic. Yay, time for bipolar medication. Later that year, I needed therapy, so I got set up with one of my university counselors who happened to be an autistic woman finishing up her PhD. After a while with her, I got diagnosed through my university. So I did get diagnosed behind my mom's back, but when I finally explained my diagnosis to her, a lot of things clicked. And at age 60, she's a self-diagnosed autistic. Getting an autism diagnosis is very difficult, especially if you're a woman or person of color. Most autism research is based off of white boys. So if you're getting an evaluation done, don't just walk in. Do your research, bring notes, and be prepared to defend yourself. Remember that not everybody has the ability to get a diagnosis. So be nice. Bye, guys.
Oh, I love you. I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm making a game in which a trans woman named Lily is a protagonist. If you're interested, you can reach my Patreon from the link in the description.
Autism is all in your head. Literally, it's neurological. It affects your brain. But did you know it also affects your brain physically? For example, the hypothalamus of autistic people is actually found to be smaller.
Oh.
And the hypothalamus controls the hormones that help regulate hunger, thirst, bodily temperature, sexual function, and so much more. This can cause us to have difficulties understanding when we're hungry, when we're thirsty, and also when we've had too much to eat, as well as other bodily cues like knowing when to use the restroom. This can also be the reason for thermodysregulation in autistic people. The hippocampus of autistic people was also found to be larger, which is responsible for storing and maintaining memories. Some autistic brains were also found to have sparse or missing corpus callosum. This can cause developmental delays, difficulties with hand-eye coordination, and repetitive speech, amongst other things.
That's
The
interesting.
amygdala of autistic children was found to be larger, which can cause a lack of understanding of fear or dangerous situations. However, it was found to be shrunken in adults,
I definitely
smaller than
researched this,
seen
by
in
the way.
neurotypical brains. This could cause excess fear, anxiety, or paranoia. Autistic brains were also found to have shrunken tissue in parts of the cerebellum. This can cause difficulties with social interactions, coordination, and cognition. Another key difference seen in autistic brains is the brain volume. Watch part 2 to see how your brain volume could actually be responsible for the gifted kid to autistic burnt-out adult pipeline. So we all know about the pipeline from super genius, overachieving gifted kid to burnt-out autistic adult struggling with basic daily tasks. But did you know there could be a physical reason for this experience? Studies have shown that autistic brains develop more rapidly in childhood, causing our brains to grow faster and larger than our neurotypical peers. This is part of the reason why, as children, we found it so easy to read book after book after book and remember every detail of every conversation and every factoid we heard, which is in part why we excelled so greatly academically. But those same studies also found that autistic brains can shrink prematurely before our early 20s. This can cause issues with processing and communicating thoughts, difficulties with reading comprehension, struggles to perform basic daily tasks, and even cause memory issues. And while this isn't an experience for every autistic person, this definitely helps to explain some of our experiences.
Can someone explain to me what it means when a neurotypical person just ignores you?
Because most of the neurotypicals hate people who aren't like them.
In a social context? Like, I fully get it. I can be very hard to talk to in social situations because I'm super awkward. But that doesn't mean you should ignore my presence as a human.
Hello, my name is Ren. I'm autistic, and today I'll be rating my sensory X. Absolutely not. It makes me feel disoriented and lightheaded,
Whoa,
and I'd rather
you're
consume an entire
fast.
gallon of Elmer's glue than listen to it for an extended period of time. Disgusting. They are the tactile equivalent of TV static, and I don't have the
Mine
time
is
of day
too.
to aggressively moisturize my hands in order to tolerate them. No. Who drank water and thought, this would really taste a lot better if it was physically painful to drink and made people's tongues itch? Burn it. It doesn't even have to involve nails. I can't stand the sound of plain chalk on a chalkboard. That's why I barely
Aw.
showed up to my freshman math class. The entire goddamn classroom was covered in these.
I'm seeing a lot of people recently say that autism and ADHD, there's a lot more cases, and it's people just making it up. I want to show you something. This is the history of left-handedness over time.
Oh, I'm left-handed.
See, right around 1920s, 1940s, we had a huge uptick. So culturally, it's a thing. Like, you try to make sure everyone writes right-handed. Once there was more education and liberation about it, people started to actually use their dominant hands. Once society starts to educate itself and not define itself on these binary terms, things like this, the expressions of things, become more pronounced. I would offer to you that there are not more autistic or ADHD people, simply we have the education and ability to diagnose them.
Yes,
If the Earth Kingdom
fact.
discovers us, they'll have us killed.
But if the Fire Nation discovers us, we'll be turned over to Azula.
Earth Kingdom it is.
Self-diagnosis.
So let's talk about a lesser-known autistic trait, and that is hyperlexia. Hyperlexia isn't always
Yes, 84% of children with hyperlexia have autism.
associated with autism, but it heavily is. Hyperlexia is when a kid starts reading way earlier than expected and at a surprisingly high comprehension level, well beyond what would be expected. For me, I was always reading as a kid. I was also getting in trouble in class often because I was reading during class. My reading comprehension
No.
level for early childhood was always at least a couple of years above, if not more. This is also why, for a lot of us late diagnosed autistic people, we were probably labeled as gifted and talented when
Me
we
too.
were in early elementary school. The downside to this is that it put a lot of expectations on us, that especially a lot of us with ADHD that's comorbid, we were never going to be able to meet those expectations. I always did well in school because I could ace my tests without really trying, but I couldn't do my homework. I just couldn't. And this ultimately just cycles back to our executive dysfunction issues.
Understand Spanish to a certain level.
¿Cuántos años tienes?
My resolution? Airstrikes. Bomb them.
Yeah.
Who are you hanging out with that asks these types of questions? Like, obviously, this is super problematic because you described people who don't have autism as regular.
It would be nice to get rid of all Aulistics though.
But I don't even have shit to say about that because I'm just so concerned about everything else in this video.
Hi, so this is a badge saying please offer me a seat because if I stand up for too
Oh,
long, my heart rate goes really high
this look
and I might
nice.
pass out and vomit, which isn't great. So yeah, this is a please offer me a seat so I can sit down.
This look
This
nice.
is my card. It says
Oh,
I'm autistic, and at the
I need
back,
this.
right here, it says please be patient with me,
I need
talk
this
clearly and
immediately.
calmly, and do
I
not touch me
definitely
to
need
avoid
this.
causing me distress. With a few little symbols here.
Oh,
And then at the
nice.
bottom is my mum's number, just in case I need my mum or there's an emergency
I
of
put
some
my
kind,
partner's
so
number,
hence
by
why
the
I'm
way.
looking it. But yeah, and each symbol means different things. I hope that helped.
No, it's
So
nice.
question number 2 is, what were the signs that made you think you are autistic? To be diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, one has to meet all of the criteria, which I did. But in terms of signs from my lived experience, sort of personally, these were things like, in fact, I made a list, let me read them so that I don't miss anything out. Always feeling on the periphery of social interactions, scripting and preparing questions before social events, bottom-up thinking, which often meant I found my job very stressful. Bottom-up thinking is basically instead of seeing the big picture before you look at the detail, you look at all of the detail and then you build the big picture. Issues with emotional regulation and shutdowns and meltdowns.
I love these types of TikToks because most of them are made with good intentions and to guide the autism community. These videos make it easier for us to discover ourselves.
Many of which now I see I had learned to internalize, which was terrible for my mental health. Constantly irritable with my partner when there was nothing wrong, seemingly.
Oh.
Exhausted to the point of burnout every month. Exhaustion from social interactions to the point where doing anything on the weekends outside of work felt like a monumental task. Obsessive interests that I'd rather spend my time on than seeing people. Interception issues like not realizing I hadn't eaten or being unable to say what I'm feeling other than overwhelmed or fine.
I don't lie, like to anyone, ever. I am capable, but I'm not very good at it due to my autism. People view honesty as a positive quality. They'll say, honesty is the best policy, until you're honest, and then they get incredibly upset.
Yes, yes. Neurotypicals and their fragile egos.
But as a brutally honest autistic person, being brutal in the name of honesty, even if you're objectively correct, is just that. Brutality, and it's usually unnecessary. And it's shitty, because your honest observations are likely to be correct, but when stated harshly, your honesty loses its value. I'm not saying you need to package your honest observations and opinions in a wrapped box with a bow. I'm just saying maybe don't package your honesty in steaming hot garbage bags.
That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I love you.